he can stay here and Mr. Ray.
But you're okay.
Yeah, I was like, I was talking to my sister 2 weeks ago. And she said something like, I lost you here. Yeah, I lost you here somewhere. Right?
The first week on the agenda.
Yeah, right. Maybe that's what it
So you have a
was.
right to get a little bit.
The manager reports first, but
She's
it's okay.
incredible.
Very.
Not the way I'm doing it. Come on, let's have a little faith in Larry here. Andy, Russell wants to get to you for a minute and then we'll start. This is, who's this for? This is for Yvonne? Okay, no. I sign taxes, I'm traumatized now. I feel. I can do that all night. Oh, yeah.
And then I just got this one in. Okay, I changed it.
Well, gee, that's nice, but I wish you well. I said, I hope the TV show goes well tonight. You should later. It should be, yeah. He's back to me, at least, he emailed me at least 2 times in the last few days.
Not too many, but there was.
I'll text this. The July, right, July transfer for August 3rd.
Another shit chat, let's get going. Good evening, everyone. Board meeting has started. It is now 8:04. I have 8:03. Could you go by my phone? Okay, 8:03. The 8:03, right? Okay. Because you and I set by the same atomic clock somewhere. Anyhow, we are ready. We've taken attendance. We are up to minutes. Do we have anything to approve, Madam Secretary?
Yes, we do. Move that the minutes from the July 31st open and closed sessions are approved as circulated. And I have another one.
Second, John, second. Go ahead.
Okay, all in favor?
Doug is here. So we're to be counted 8:04.
And move that the August 23rd closed session special meeting, minutes from the closed session special meeting of August 23rd, 2012, be approved as circulated.
That was this meeting, right? Yeah. So we have also 2. So we have both. Remember we moved the thing to both?
And
Okay.
open,
Yes.
okay.
So can we do both?
Yeah.
Okay, so August open and closed, as
As
circulated.
circulated.
Everybody good? Call for a vote? All in favor? Doug, are you in favor of minutes? Come on, Doug. Raise that hand.
I'm gonna have to abstain, I didn't read that one.
That was the meeting with
It was a fine meeting.
You can't abstain on minutes when you were here. All right, anything else, Madam Secretary?
That's it, thank you.
Okay, now we are up and running. Management report. Hit it, Russell.
Good evening, shareholders and the board. The first item I wanted to discuss in open session was the electrical billing spike that many shareholders have received. That initially, President Dodona sent a memo out to every shareholder regarding the electrical spike. At first, it was thought to be some sort of an error on how everyone's charges were so high. However, on a further investigation, we were able to discover that the time frame when the electrical charges was billed was the June into July time frame. During that 30-day time period, there was 3 separate heat waves. A heat wave in New York City is considered to be 3 90-degree days, consecutive days. So that happened on 3 occasions in the month of June into August. Into July, my apologies. That, in addition to the fact that when usage goes up, Con Edison increases their rates as well. So every month your rate fluctuates as well as your usage. So those two things combined accounted for the higher spike on everyone's bill last month. I hope everyone received my memo. I know I reached, many individual shareholders did reach out to me. I believe I responded to everyone on their individual concerns. However, should I have missed anyone, please feel free to reach out to me again on this issue. The Irene update, we are well underway with the repairs for Irene. Many shareholders have been scheduled, and we still have approximately 30+ shareholders who are still in limbo. It's at their discretion, they're waiting, they don't want to move their furniture right now. However, anyone who has wanted the repairs done has either been done or scheduled. We did run into some issues with the contractors we were using as far as timeliness and one or two work-related issues. However, we feel that the issues have been resolved. We are also giving the opportunity to shareholders to even choose their own contractors now moving forward, should they so choose.
But not for asbestos.
Not for the asbestos. The asbestos portion, if needed, will still be performed by our asbestos contractors. I'm going to jump right into my recommended motions for the board. Well, let me give a little background on this one first. Building 6, we had an emergency issue with the pressure of water for the low zone of Building 6. This was due to a pressure reducing valve in the basement that delivered water to that area of the building. The pressure reducing valve failed, and we had to perform an emergency shutdown, number 1, and the replacement of the valve. Due to that, I exceeded my normal cap of $5,000, so I'm making a recommended motion to the board to approve the overage of expense.
So it's 14,000 altogether, or it's 9?
It's 9,000.
It's 9,000 total.
9,007. Recommended motion, move that the board of directors approve the emergency repairs of the Building 6 pressure reducing valve and 2 OS&Y valves at a cost of $9,772.62 as a capital expense.
Second. Any discussion?
Who moved it?
I did. I moved. Any discussion? Yes, Chief, please.
Just a quick question. So when they repaired it, and then they gave the new whatever the parts, right?
Yes.
So it should last.
Correct. It should last a long time.
Yeah.
It's brass,
That's
right? It's
Yes.
brass. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
That's why it's considered, and the 2 control valves on either side of this
Yeah.
valve as well
Okay.
was replaced.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? It's unanimous. Okay,
The next recommended motion I have is move that the board of directors approve the general manager to work with the corporation's attorney to finalize the recommended schedule of fees for incorporation into the house rules. This is in reference to the house rule violations.
resolution. So it's at the bottom of the page, it says open session, fines and fees for violations. That's on page 1 and it runs to the top of page 2.
It's a motion.
No, I think he's informing us, he's asking us to go ahead with it. Would you like to give us some background about, I believe you contacted our attorney so that
Yes.
everybody can be clear on this?
Basically, well, first and foremost, Morningside doesn't have any policies or a administrative fee schedule when it comes to breaking house rules. One of the most prevalent issues we've been experiencing has been animal control with feces and urination of dogs and pets on the property. Other issues do come to mind, but I'm not going to get into individual problems. We feel that there should be a fine structure to levy against residents who don't obey our house rules. The house rules are meant for the enjoyment of everyone for this property, not for a select few who choose to act the way they choose to act. So at this point, we're recommending to the board to allow us to work with the corporate counsel to devise the schedule of fees and fines.
And what about language for the house rules, right? We have to develop language for the house rules to put it in there?
Correct. It would be actually an amendment to the house rules. The actual fine schedule will become an amendment to the house rules, which is why we need the attorneys involved in the amendment.
And so Jerry Wahlberg will be involved in it also because he's the chair of House Rules Committee. Okay? And if you need to, I think Donna has this meeting and stuff. All right, so there's nothing to do right now. We don't have to do anything, we're waiting for this to come, so it'll come as a house rule to us. We'll move it, discuss it, and hopefully vote it in.
So at that time, we can talk about how they're gonna enforce what we're gonna do.
Oh, absolutely.
Correct, the
Yes.
policies and procedures that go.
We'll talk
along with
about
it.
the whips and the chains and all the other things that we intend to incorporate. Yes, Steve?
I think when we last talked about this, we were gonna go kind of find out from like what other CSI properties had this kind of.
Correct. We use that as a basis for what we put in our management report. Some properties, there are certain items that are seen more egregious with some properties, and they would sometimes assign a higher fee to a particular offense. Say barbecuing on a terrace. There wouldn't be an escalated fee structure of $25 for the first offense, $50 for the second. It would automatically go to like a $250 fine, because they thought it was that egregious. But I figured it was a good basis to start with an escalating fine in a general sense. And we could assign values to things that seem to be more important than others.
Yes, Chief?
No.
Oh, okay. Keep rolling.
Next, recommended motion, moved that the Board of Directors approve change order 25 in the amount of $17,008.15, adding 3.5 additional days to the project timeline for the replacement of deteriorated sills and a correction to line item D for change order 24 for $2,558.40. The correction was due to, it was a large balcony that was repaired and not a small balcony that was originally built.
And you need to add this as a capital expense. to the
As a
budget.
capital expense.
Okay.
You move that?
No, Yvonne moves it.
Oh, thank
And who's the second? Second right there.
It
Okay?
should say as a capital expense.
And
Yes.
we're adding that language. It is a capital expense. Any discussion of this item? We've had this discussion before, so may I move to a vote? I'm sorry? Okay, we're gonna move to a vote. All in favor? Carried unanimously.
Next, recommended motion, move that the Board of Directors approve GC Plumbing to perform and complete the backflow prevention project as specified by Skylar Engineering at a cost of $39,800 as a capital expense.
Why don't you give him a little background? We'll second it, please. Anybody second it? Alfred seconds it, and who's
Yvonne moved it.
moved it? Okay. Why don't you tell him what happened with this particular thing with
A
Sky?
backflow preventer is a device that's on the inlet of water from the New York City water system. What it does is it allows the water to flow in from the city, but will not allow water to flow back into the city system, which has the possibility to contaminate the water for New York City. So these devices, it's only in building 6, I believe, where the water comes in and goes up to the roof tank. So their devices are in building 6 as well as the garage. The garage is actually a standalone property technically, and it should have had this device installed, and it never was. We went through a full bidding process. The spec was drawn up by Skylar Engineering. 5 plumbers came on site, viewed the work, walked the site. 3 of the 5 submitted bids on the project. All of them, the prices were very competitive, probably within $1,500, all 3. The engineer called references. I even called in a couple of recommendations and references from colleagues of mine who've used GC Plumbing. Not only was GC Plumbing the lowest bidder on this job, they did come recommended, and their references checked out as well.
I have a question also.
Yes.
See, we just replaced the PRV in building 6. How many do we have in building 6?
Well, that was a pressure reducing valve. With a pressure reducing valve is different than a backflow preventer, PRV.
As it was explained to me, if I may,
Says
Russ,
here-
so if I may explain something, we had an issue at Murray Bertram High School where the water from the school, which had chemicals in it, was flowing back outside, and they brought in DEP. And DEP was upset because there was no backflow preventer in there, because they said, you can kill yourself in your building with your water, but you're not going to kill people in the city with your water. So every building must have a backflow preventer to prevent water from backing up and leaving the building, because you can have contaminants in it. It's got to go into the drain and out.
So there's just something wrong with the report here. The report says we replaced the PRV, and it says right here we're replacing PRVs in building 6. So
Okay,
something-
let me clarify. I mean, I did make a mistake here. PRV is the pressure reducing valve for the domestic water inside the building, into the low zone of building 6. That's what failed. An RPZ, it's a reduced pressure zone device. That's what we're talking about here.
So that's the type
That's-
here, where you said PRV and this, and on item 3, when you meant to say RPZ, is that it?
Item 3 in the report, it says RPZ.
No, it says to replace several PRVs in building 6.
The second one?
Not the first.
And drawings to replace several PRVs in building 6. Let me show you where it says it. I'll show you. Go back to the motion. Go back here. See what it says here? And draw.
You're correct. That
You
is
mean
a type.
RPZs, right?
That's a type,
Okay,
correct.
Thank you.
That's the type RPZs.
Okay. So have we finished management report open session?
Well, I need the vote on this motion.
Oh, okay.
Or,
We made,
Yes.
moved it, seconded. Any other discussion? Yes, Chief, please.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Now I understand it's only in building 6 and then garage, right? That's
Correct.
the only places.
Correct.
And then after they do this, like replacing them, is there later on the maintenance schedule so that we can get this work longer?
It's actually should be inspected every annually. Annually, they get inspected and certified by a plumber. Approximately every 5 years, they need to do some maintenance on it, where they change out the insides of the valve, but the whole valve doesn't need to be replaced.
So that should be like, we should have annual maintenance schedule, like a
Yes.
list of them. This is one of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? No? Seeing none? All in favor? It's unanimous.
That concludes the open session of the management report.
Okay. John, would you do for the amenities committee, would you do your report first, please?
Amended.
No, jump past this amenities and go to
Communication.
Well, I mean, not amenities, I meant the committee report. Oh, I'm sorry, committee report, communications. You're right, John, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to keep it going, John.
So that would get Sharon.
Well, that would be good. That would be good time to do it.
I thought it was gonna take long.
I fooled you.
So in your packet is a brief outline of what the Communications Committee is suggesting. This is an idea that came forth from the committee from Andrea Becker and Ed Freeland, and it was basically to create a newsletter whereby the different committees would be able to report directly to the shareholders what it is they're doing. Again, these committees different, the Grounds Committee, Long Range Planning Committee, and what they would do is they would submit a report, whatever they want, to an editor, and that would be coalesced into a 4-page newsletter that at first would be slipped under the shareholders' nose. And then going forward, we're hoping to move things along, that things will happen more electronically, and that this will be put together on a quarterly basis and be submitted to the shareholders electronically, and also have it to be seen in the laundry rooms and stuff like that. It's listed in a 2-page report, and you can read it.
Would you like to move this as a BigCom board policy, a corporation
I think
policy?
good. I think it would be good.
So
to
please
set
make
it
the
up,
motion.
Make a motion.
It's a committee recommendation, so all you have to do is make the motion.
Yeah, I want to make a motion that we institute this newsletter, this quarterly newsletter of committee reports. And we would assign a task force person to be in charge of it, to submit the reports to the task person, and it would be coalesced and considered to the shareholders.
All right, you're gonna have to write that out for Ed. Now we need a second.
A second.
Okay. Any discussion about this report?
Actually, it doesn't,
Well, technically, yeah, because he made, the report's for the committee, the motion's for him. Any discussion? Seeing none? Want to just read, want to say that again? Move that.
Move that the
board
board institutes a quarterly newsletter for committee reports that would be distributed to the shareholders.
Okay, and there's a second on it, and we're all set to go. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? It's unanimous. That's one down. All right? Andy, we're gonna keep going. So why don't you, you're on the committee, and you were at the meeting, why don't you move the amenities committee? Oh, by the way, before you do that, I want to report, I think you all received a letter from Data. I was at the meeting when the committee decided that they needed another month. I granted them another month once I received the letter. So October will be the date when we will see. Things seem to be moving along in a very cordial way, and I'm expecting good things out of this.
Regarding the workshops.
The workshops, everything.
Yes, I was also at this meeting, I'm a member of the committee, and I thought I was gonna present this, but, the committee passed a motion, and I think because I just moved this, right? So this comes-
All you have to do is read it,
Yeah.
and you don't have to move it. It's moved already.
Move that the indoor bike storage be charged $10.
Second.
That the indoor bike storage be charged $10 per month per bike, regardless of size, starting January 1st, 2013, to be paid annually in full in January.
And there's no second necessary, it's from the committee. Any discussion? Yes, Dan?
I guess a question for CSR, is this, you know, in terms of, this is like market price for this kind of activity, or, you know, like storage?
I have to tell you, we were told at the meeting, I was sitting there watching this meeting, and people said this is underpriced at $10 a month. It's cheap.
Right, I think it's more, the last property I was on, it was 25 per month. But they had very limited storage, so they priced it to come up, somewhat to discourage people from doing it. But it was very expensive. That's what it has a lot to do with, the spaces available for shareholders to utilize.
Anything else? Yes, Chief, please.
Yeah, I just want to say that, I'm sure, like management will help, whatever the management to make sure. Because in the email we received, Data's, whatever the memo or something, she says like only 3 bedroom storage, we have 4.
That's what
This
they discussed.
4
That came
and
up in.
5, 6.
Right.
And then I think management, I don't know, or some volunteers to clean some of the spaces.
That's-
Building
that-
4 is the best one, and the building 5 is the worst one.
Right.
So.
Well, I think they have to look at hardware and
Yeah,
stuff.
they
And
do.
you saw the latest magazine that we get as board members? Yeah, there was a whole bunch of ads in there for, like, things that we need, like bike room storage and this storage. And I said, gee, what, were they reading our minds? It's like amazing. So, yeah, I think, but they talked about that there are 4, not 3, and that they gotta get that 4th one straightened out. Okay? Yes, they'll do that. Thank you, Nina. Seeing no other discussion, we're gonna take a vote. All in favor? And it's unanimous. It's a good day. Okay. She's on her way? Yvonne, why don't we go, we did the minutes. No, that's good. Yes, please.
I have an emergency announcement, everyone. I just received word, building 4, there's flooding in the lobby and they had to shut down the elevators.
Building 3 or building 4? Building 3.
It says M4.
Well,
That's
and
what,
building 3's got I thought, okay, the guys are doing building 3 right now. Some pump didn't work, and a lot of it's flooded right now.
Maybe this,
They should have told you.
the email from Vinny said M4, so maybe it is building 3. This is happening in multiple
Oh,
buildings
it's
right
from
now.
that point, okay.
Oh, it's, M4 meaning.
M4. It's
Okay.
okay, yeah.
So,
Okay, so it's building 3.
so a sump pump didn't work. That's not good. Those are supposed to work day and night, no matter what.
Yeah.
And we put that in, didn't we put those in recently, like about 2 years ago? Didn't we drill the holes in the ground? The sump pump, remember? At the bottom of the elevators? We put them in about 2 years ago, I think. You're gonna have to check.
Yes, it's way too early to really tell everything that's happened as of now. I just wanted to make that quick announcement.
I stalled.
The information is coming in.
We put an emergency ahead of you, we did everything we could. So Sharon, Lockhart Carter,
How are you?
Chairman of the Grounds Committee, the outstanding Chairman of the Grounds Committee.
Yay!
The mover and shaker, protector of trees and bushes. Unbelievable. If I get one more email from her, she'll set the record for emails to me. Okay, it's all yours.
Thank you. I believe that you have in your baseline, if you can. Okay, baseline. Lottie Strauss, as you know, is a member of the member of Morningside Gardens.
Absolutely.
In your packets, I'm hoping that you have a copy of a recommendation to the board.
Yes, we do.
And the Morningside Gardens Grounds Committee recommends that the board approve the In Honor Of campaign that will offer shareholders and family friends of shareholders the opportunity to make contributions for the planting of trees, flowering bushes, and gardens in honor of a past or present shareholder. The planting will occur as the grounds become available. The committee recommends that the board treasurer maintain oversight for a separate bank account to hold these contributions and oversee the protocol for accountability, including, but not limited to, receipt, documentation, and deposit of said funds. The Morningside Gardens Grounds Committee chair or designee will, along with the treasurer, assure accountability. All gifts will be acknowledged in writing within 10 business days of receipt of the contribution, and a receipt will be provided. The implementation of the campaign will include, and these are suggestions for how to realize this campaign. What we're thinking of is creating site maps of different areas of the grounds where planting opportunities will be made available. We will include a schedule of contributions, so points, bullets 2 and 3 kind of go together. Based on the master plan and recommendations from the arborist, we will come up with appropriate trees and plant material, and we will devise a schedule of contributions. So for example, we lost a beautiful weeping willow tree on the lower path, so we need to find out what would it cost to, for example, to replace that weeping willow, and then we would suggest, if someone wanted to replace that, what we would need in terms of a contribution. And so that's what we mean in terms of schedule of contributions and appropriate trees. We have some trees that may need to be taken down as a result of damage, and so that's what we're talking about. And then, this is maybe the toughest part. How do you honor those contributions? So we offered you a couple of suggestions, and we'd be very happy if you would pick one, because we certainly don't want to limit that. But there are a couple of possibilities. You can create, plaques are real kind of not so great. So we were trying to come up with a couple of things. For example, you can put a small sign in the general area of the planting. You can create something where you can add the names. And again, that's a very small part of this recommendation. But basically, we're looking to honor shareholders and come up with a creative funding stream.
All right, so here's what we have as a motion. It's not characterized that way, but basically what the motion would be is that there be a separate bank account created with oversight by the board treasurer and the grounds committee, and that this account would be used to plant live bushes, and it could be done in memory. They don't have to be dead people. It could be alive people. It could be anything you want. It could be an occasion. It could be 9/11, in memory of 9/11. Anything you want. Imaginary people, if you have that problem, you'll hire somebody to talk to you. But right now, we're talking about whatever you want to do that is real. And that this campaign, that this organization have a site map of planting opportunities will be made available, a schedule of contributions will be offered, a list of appropriate trees and plant materials suggested by the arborist and master plan will be advertised, the name of the honored person may be affixed to the general area where the tree, bush, or garden has been planted, and the last item is a wood carving of a Morningside garden. So that's the whole motion. That's the way you have to look at the motion. Now, it doesn't need a second, it comes from the committee. What we need now is discussion. I don't have to move it. I have to move it. I have to move it for the guest, because I'm the liaison. Yes, I moved that, but it doesn't need a second. Okay? Andy, you go first.
So that's
You want out? Okay, I saw yours first, but
okay. A couple of of, I guess, discussion points. On the second point, the scheduled contributions to be offered, now, you actually mean the cost for specific trees or plants as a cost as opposed to a suggestion for how much to contribute, right?
Well, it's kind of both, because you can't just buy the tree, you've got to include the cost of planting the tree, right?
Well, when I say the tree or whatever, I mean everything included.
So
Everything
when we
necessary.
say a schedule of contributions, we're saying this is what it would cost if you want to donate for Weeping Willow, for example.
Okay, but if there were a group of people, several people who wanted to contribute
This is
up
what
to that
it will
amount.
cost the group.
Fine.
Absolutely.
Okay. For the third point, say a list of appropriate trees and plant materials suggested by the arborist. What if there were other suggestions? I mean, would that be running up past the arborist, or would it be limited to just those?
Well, I think we would never be able to cover all suggestions, but there are some things that do not do well here.
Which is why I'm saying maybe
Don't
that's
strive.
run by the
Sure,
arborist, right?
sure. However, we wouldn't be able to allow people to come and say, I want, this, and I will only do this. We need to be clear that there has to be consultation, not only with the arborist, but the master plan.
Right, no, I'm saying,
Yeah.
as long as there is some sort of expert input.
That's a great way of putting it. There needs to be expert input, and the experts we're looking at right now would be the arborist and going back to the master.
And we have a very fine arborist. This gentleman
That's
is very good.
no question. I'm just wondering if there might be a limited list that could be expanded based, with this input or with this, just passing on. I mean, maybe.
We are very flexible.
That's all I was asking.
Yes, we are very flexible. However, people will come with ideas that they have that may not fit with our vision
Agreed.
for the
Yes.
gardens. And
Right,
I don't want to be put in a position of turning people down. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we're really going to look to come up with a list so that we're not in a position of offending people. Because then that gets touchy.
Absolutely. Indeed,
I think we've already talked about this.
Yes, we
I
have.
love this idea.
Yes, thank you.
Not only because I love the grounds, but as wearing the treasurer's hat, I worry a lot about the bottom line, and it's a great way to take a burden off maintenance and keep our place great. My only complaint is I don't love the last thing. I don't love the wood carving.
Sure.
I do like the name of the person, and I would like to see the name of the species of the plant, the common name of the species, as well as the name of the person.
And I think that's, thank you for that feedback. One of the things that we try to do is, if we bring you a problem, we bring you two solutions or more, and then we let you. Okay.
if I may, are you offering a friendly amendment that we should delete number 5? Is that what you're asking?
Sure, we can call that.
Does the committee, will the committee accept that?
And not only will we accept it, we will advocate so
Okay.
that the board can decide to
Okay.
replace number 5.
So, is there anybody disagrees with doing away with the tree? Anybody? The wood carving, that's what I don't mean the tree, I meant the wood carving thing. Is that okay? So we're considering, we're considering the bullet points, the first 4 bullet points, all right? Is that okay?
Sure.
You're with that? Dan, you were next.
It's a great idea, it's a great initiative.
Thanks,
I think, the way Larry said it earlier, it doesn't have to be a shareholder, it can be like it could be like an honored member of the staff is retiring, and it could be, is it just a shareholder that would be honored, or are there other things that you donate money into?
You know what I love, Dan? I'd love for all of you to help us with this. Because this was, this is the beginnings of something, and I really haven't thought that far ahead. But I guess when I say a shareholder, I'm really talking about Morningside Gardens community. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And I think it should be up to the board to decide if that goes beyond shareholders.
Okay.
Do you want to make a friendly amendment that we want it to be as broad as possible and not just limit to past and present shareholders?
Well, I think that, the notion about honoring somebody beyond the shareholders is a good one. I also think that, we may want to maintain some kind of, some kind of like final arbiter as the board. that's, you know, I mean, you can see, I mean, you know, in the unlikely scenario that somebody, you know, donates money to, you know, to put up something and wants to like honor something ridiculous.
Yes.
You know, and.
Oh, you mean the actual honoring of
Or
the
something like
right?
that, that we have, you know, ultimate kind of, you know, authority to reject that. So I think that somehow, if we can, you know, kind of just maintain that right.
Could we do it a different way? Could we say that if the treasurer believes that that what will be put on the plaque is inappropriate, that item should come to the board for approval or rejection? Because the treasurer is the ultimate, the treasurer, I mean, is that okay? Because it's gotta give you somehow.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I guess, I don't want it to be too broad, so my vision was shareholders past and present, and I really would like it to be specific, maybe employees, but I don't want someone who has an aunt who, you know what I mean? I just don't, and again, I don't wanna have to say to
It
someone,
has to be somebody like a member of the country.
yes,
Yeah.
and I think that should be the language there, and I think that would be good language.
If I may, I just thought of something. If you're making a plaque, the plaque is gonna be a certain size, and it's gonna allow a certain amount of characters to be put on the plaque. So you want the species, and then you want who you're honoring on that plaque. If you wanna put more than that, we have to be able to have, in other words, we have to determine the size of this plaque to be put in the ground next to the thing, and how many characters. You're gonna have to decide that in advance, so that everybody knows the limitation of what it is they're doing. It can't be like, we can't have a plaque that big for a bush this small, and a plaque this big for a tree, because it doesn't make any sense. They should be uniform plaques, and they should have uniform amount of characters you can use, but you can always use less characters, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
But that's something you have to think about, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
G?
Yeah, I have a suggestion also, because I think whatever we honor people, we should have it last really longer as an official record. So I think in each annual report, from your committee report, should maybe you add, you replace number 5, saying your committee report to say, this year we had honored
Yes.
whoever and who donated, like MRHS donations, right? All the people who donate money, the names are there. So in the annual report, it's really an official and it will last forever.
Chief,
Yes.
thank you for that.
We'll make that number 5, you accept that?
Bullet number, let me just say this, bullet number 5 was a metaphor for, a living document that honors the people. And so I want you to keep that in mind. And let me tell you why I wanted something that was in one place that people could see. It encourages other people. And that was, you know, again, it doesn't have to be the wood carving, it doesn't have to be the tree, that's a metaphor, that's irrelevant. But something that is there, if I'm passing by and I see that you've honored, Glenn Bader, for example, who Lottie just passed me a note. Lottie loved this suggestion, and I want to say that we had a long talk. She's already started, and I said, Lottie, wait, it hasn't been approved
Yeah,
yet.
I think you should wait, Glenn, just a few, because we give time for Andy to catch up.
But this was a tangible proof of the support that we had. And so I'm saying, if you walk by and you see that someone's been honored, then it sparks something for other people. And they say, you know what? I would love to see my father's name there. I would love to see Thomas Sulu. Do anybody remember Thomas Sulu? You know, I mean, those kind of, I'd love to see that person honored. And so that was why I threw in there that it would be nice to have something that is visible. I agree, Chi, and I will do that, because that's part of our, and that's part of our recording.
And we're putting it down as bullet 5 in here, because it'll go into the minutes that way.
I'd
By
like
the
you
way-
to consider, you to consider something. If you don't like the wood carving in the tree, that's fine. But plaques are too much. So I'd like you to consider something that people can see.
Well, the list of names in the annual report is one thing, and then on the ground, where each piece goes, it should be prominently displayed who contributed that piece, and, you know, it's in honor of so-and-so. That plaque should be part of the cost of the tree, however, because once we know the characters and the size of the plaque, that can be incorporated.
Fair enough.
I also want to point out to the board that this is a brilliant idea because it takes the strain off our capital reserve. And it will free up some money for the incredibly huge amount of projects that we're looking at. So I think this is a fabulous idea. It gives everybody a chance to express themselves about people they care about, and it makes the grounds beautiful, and we will be in better shape. So we have a second. We know there's 5 bullets now. We know there's going to be a little. I'm sorry, Doug. I won't move it until I just want to say. We don't need a second because it's committee. We know what this is going to look like, in that we're going to. Andy's going to be in charge and have to say that little piece has to go in there. The treasurer, not you, Andy, because that'll be a permanent lifetime job. The treasurer will evaluate the appropriateness of whatever's going to be put on these little plaques. Okay?
No, whether the board needs to decide.
That's right. Well, that's what I meant. Doug.
Well, by the way, I also think this is a great defense of things. I appreciate your hard work on this. But I just like to, I'm a little concerned about coming out of my building one morning, and there's a big red and white sign, don't feed the squirrels, next to it, the dubious memory of the So can we, I would like to, on bullet point number 4, I would like to add something like the final design of any sign or plaque to be subject to board.
Well, if you have a uniform design for the plaque to begin with, but it should be the board will approve a uniform design of plaques. How's that?
Do you need
Right?
the sign or the placement?
No, he needs a sign that goes next to the bush or tree.
I also want current placement to,
I don't know, it's,
Yeah.
Approve. I'm adding this
okay,
here.
I'll say then the final design and placement.
So placement of each plaque.
Design and
No,
placement.
no, I assume we're gonna,
At a generic.
Final design
I mean,
and placement.
is it gonna be nailed in the tree?
No.
Is it gonna be, you know,
What does the board know about placement though? That's more for the grounds committee to decide.
Well, the board will approve it, that's all. We're approving the design and the placement. The grounds committee will say to us, we want to put it here, and then
it's a little difficult though to kind of concretize that, because it's going to be different if it's a tree, or if it's the rose garden, or if it's a butterfly bush. And so if you agree on the design of the plaque, and then we certainly, it's just going to be difficult for you to say, well, it's got to be 3 inches and 6 inches to the right of the lowest limb. You know, I mean, that's going to be a little bit difficult. But if, you know, it will not be permanently affixed, and so.
it could be moved.
And so once we figure something out, then it can be moved.
How about, Doug, I know you make a friendly amendment, and I don't think anybody here wants to have a vote on this, but if we said the board will approve the final design and leave it at that, is that okay?
yeah, fine.
Okay. Of plaques, okay.
So my friendly amendment is for, to add, or after, or present shareholder, or resident, or staff member.
Member of the community.
Okay, that's, how about any member of the Morningside community? Does that cover everybody? So in honor of any past or present member of the Morningside community? Okay.
Canines are apparently now.
Well, dogs are members of the community, so Gina's getting her plaque. That's, you better believe it. Okay, and Sharon, thank you so much, but don't leave, you gotta vote. May I move to a vote? I believe yes. Okay, all in favor? All right, Ed will make sense of this motion, and it'll come out, and we'll all remember what it said. Now, before I go on, because I think the next thing is the bylaws committee. Before I do that, I want to introduce the newest member of our management staff, Sabrina, the lovely and popular and intelligent and hardworking Sabrina. Some of you may have spoken to her already. Her last name, Bowman, Sabrina Bowman. B-O-W-M-A-N. She has been here now almost a month, and she has just slipped right into the job. I understand it's going really well. I don't know if she likes it here, but I know it's going really well.
Smiling.
Okay, good. Okay, now, we're on to the next very big item, the bylaws committee. That's you, Yvonne. Take the mic, you might as well take the mic. It's not on, you gotta press that button, get a light. You get a light?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, you can hear me now. At the June 26th regular board meeting, the bylaws committee was charged with dealing with the sections of the corporation's bylaws that concern the bylaws committee as presently constituted and also how it functions. The reason why was because last year council had, after being asked a question, had pointed out that the way that our bylaws were written regarding the bylaws committee was in conflict with New York Business Corporation law. And so the bylaws committee, when we met a few times, we considered, we had different options that we discussed, including what happened last year was that the bylaws, the board became the bylaws committee as a whole. But it apparently didn't seem to work very well. There's a lot of work entailed for the bylaws committee, and it seems as though the board never had the opportunity to meet as the bylaws committee. At the same time, we wanted to come up with an option that would satisfy the New York City Business Corporation law, and at the same time try to maintain some of the intent of and tradition of our original bylaw. And so today we're presenting to you what we came up with, the changes.
Would you just let everybody know who was on the bylaw committee? So everybody can just...
Oh, okay. The bylaws committee consists of 6 board members. Traditionally, it consists of 3 people appointed by the chair of MGCA and 3 people appointed by the president of the corporation. And the chair of MGCA declined to appoint anyone, and so Larry appointed 6 of us. He appointed me the chair, and in addition to me, there was Jeanette Rodriguez-Morick, Doug Simmons, John Buscarello, Maitri Singh. Some people are missing here, right?
Yeah, she said she's going to call her maybe later.
Oh, great. And did I name 6?
No.
And myself? Oh, no, I said John.
I said John.
Oh, Doug, me, and John Carter.
Yes, thank you. How quickly we forget.
And John Carter.
You're going to go be
Who was-
arraigned in the Bronx County Court. though,
Yeah.
right?
I'm staying out of the
And
Bronx.
You're not coming out of county jail.
Yeah. Any alleged crimes I commit will not happen in the Bronx.
Good, that's a smart move.
Yes. And so we worked very hard at this, and as a result, we came up with what all of you board members have sitting in front of you. There are a number of bylaws that do need changes. We have our overview, which, I don't know, do you think I should read it for the
No, I think
audience,
the
or
board
it's
is-
okay? No, the board knows. And eventually, all of this will be distributed to the shareholders. There is one, I'd like everyone to turn to, if you have your copy here, to section 45, membership. There's one change that will be deleted, and we will keep the original language. And that is in section 45, membership, where it says all board committees are advisory to the board and shall have, etc. We are going to delete this change, our advisory to the board, and keep the original wording for now. And when the future...
And what is the original wording?
The original wording is all board committees shall have a minimum of 3 members, etc., etc. So, okay, so that will be, that's deleted. Other than that, everything it will remain the same. We've already consulted with counsel, and he has approved the proposed changes that we made.
May I make a crazy suggestion to the chair of the committee?
Yes.
That it's hard for me to tell where the changes are, because everything is the same.
There's a second go around. They have a clean copy first. And then
Back here,
Yeah.
that's the one we're looking at? That's
Clean-
the part we cut? We're looking at the
Clean
clean
is the
copy,
new-
this is the, okay.
The dirty
that's why-
copy,
That's
yeah.
why I was confused, thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, the dirty copy is the second one. Maybe it's in the wrong order. We will be presenting these proposed changes at the next MGCA meeting on September 27th. And then the board discussed, not the board, the bylaws committee discussed making the presentation to the shareholders.
I think we have dates, right?
Yes, September 30th, which is a Sunday afternoon, so that it gives the opportunity to people who can't come in the evening to come to a meeting, at which time we can have a discussion about the changes and explain how and why they're being done.
So there will be two meetings, the
yeah,
30th and the 3rd, right? October 3rd.
No, well, you know, the bylaws require only one, but if everyone wants to have two meetings for the shareholders in addition to the MGCA meeting, I mean, that would be fine with me. That might be only you and me presenting. If the rest of the, well, not everyone is here
We're
for
a
the
team, we'll
bylaws
do it
committee.
together.
Definitely. We didn't discuss
Yes,
this.
one
Right.
on Sunday and one in the evening on Wednesday, because you catch a different.
The dates would be, yeah, and the 3rd of October, which is a Wednesday evening. The 30th of December would probably be
Communication's better
from 4
when
to
you do it
5
once.
p.m.
And where would that be?
And that, most probably at the rec room. Both of them, I would think, would be at the rec room
Absolutely.
And on October 3rd,
at 7:30.
7:30 to 8:30.
Yeah, 7:30 to 8:30. We may go ahead. Yeah.
And MGCA is the 20.
MGCA is on the 27th of
Right.
September. That's Thursday evening.
3
So
meetings.
that's 3 meetings. The bylaws committee members should definitely be there, and any and all board members should be there if they can be there. At least if some of us are there, it will be enough. And we are also will be working with the elections committee to formalize the documents, the paperwork, the dates, and everything else that's required by the
Right.
bylaws.
If I may.
Yes.
It'll be a special shareholders meeting that will not require a meeting of the shareholders. It'll be done like we've done in the past, where you have the ballots collected, and then the meeting takes place in here by counting the quorum, a number of ballots, and then the count. That was done at least twice before, and that's what we'll do it. And it'll save money, because doesn't require, with 3 meetings, it doesn't require any extra expense, because that would be insane for us to, we know how much that costs. Okay, we're gonna do everything in-house, but it'll be done. I'm sorry, Erwin, I didn't mean to disturb you. You don't mind if I continue? Thank you very much. We're gonna do everything in-house,
Right.
so we save money, and we'll have the same results as any vote, because it'll be done properly through the election committee with the proper documents and everything else, right?
Right.
Anything
Right,
else?
no, that's, yes, there is. I have a motion.
Excellent.
Okay.
Then we can do a discussion.
Okay. Moved that the Board of Directors approve the Bylaws Committee's proposed amendments to sections 8, 24, 44, 45, 46, and 69, and to present those proposed changes to MGCA and to the stockholders at a meeting called for that purpose, or at 2 meetings called for that purpose.
So,
So MGCA is just to discuss, and then.
And all
All
of them
of
are
them to
just to
discuss.
discuss, but according to our bylaws, we are required to present to MGCA at this time in a separate meeting from the stockholders meeting.
this came from the committee, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it doesn't need a second, it's on the floor, we're discussing it. Dan?
First of all, I think this is really good. Congratulations to the committee for putting this together. I think it very much solves the problem, and so very good work. One question on changes on section 46. The requirement of the meetings, it says board may propose. Where is it again? an amendment.
Paragraph 1, mid-paragraph?
Yeah, the second paragraph, sorry, mid-paragraph. Any amendment the board intends to submit to the stockholders for a vote must be presented to the stockholders at an open meeting prior to the stockholder vote. And I recognize that, that, for openness to be able to do this, I wonder if this though, ties our hands that we want to have a meeting, but can you also have a meeting after you've adopted the, amendment? I mean, do we want to have that? I mean, must we have a public meeting prior? I'm not saying we shouldn't, it's good practice, but do we want to tie our hands by saying we must have a public meeting prior to proposing the amendment bylaws change?
Well, aren't we following good government principles in terms of how the state of New York and the city of New York function? They have public meetings, and then Bloomberg does what he wants anyway. So we're going to be more democratic than ever, have public meetings, and we're going to have actual votes. Do you think that? I don't think that's bad. I mean, I'm not being sarcastic, but it's open government, it's openness. Is that okay, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, there's no requirement that we do this. I mean, it is, right? I mean, we are requiring now. It's not like there's some kind of business law that requires us to have a meeting prior to this happening.
Now, it was our thought that we would just have at least, I guess the idea is after the board decides what much propose, before putting it on the ballot, there would be at least one public meeting.
No, don't get mixed up. This is for the future.
Oh.
This is not
I
for
think it's
now.
something
We're making it as we're
yeah,
going to go along now, and then we'll have rules.
Additionally, as you know, it's a time-honored tradition here, and we do have a very active community that is involved and wants to hear that discussion.
Yeah.
And of course, the committee or the board is not required to accept any proposals or recommendations. On the other hand, they could. I mean, believe it or not, sometimes somebody comes up with a really interesting thought. So, we thought to continue that tradition and allow people to have that discussion. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Did you say in a couple of sentences what the essence of the amendment is? Just for general purposes?
Oh,
So
okay.
people understand
What it is we're actually doing.
What is it we're actually
Are we
doing?
doing the bylaws committee, I think is what Doug is getting at,
No,
right?
that's why I had asked if you want me to go over the
overview,
basically.
you just say.
Just lay it out.
Break it down.
Okay, let me break it down. Okay, the bylaws committee would be an advisory committee to the board. As it is now, it can actually, according to our bylaws, present recommendations to the stockholders without the approval of the board. Of course, that didn't happen ever, but because it's stated that way, it violates the BCL. And so this way, we have a committee that is an advisory committee. Generally, bylaws committees are made up only of board members. And as it is an advisory committee to the board, and it makes recommendations to the board, it doesn't have to be made up completely of board members. And this is, we found a solution to preserving our tradition of having a diverse bylaws committee where there are shareholders who are not not board members on this committee. And it's always worked very well because, for a number of reasons, I think the board found out yesterday just how much work they have on their hands, that in addition, functioning as a bylaws committee is very difficult. There will be a minimum of one board member on this committee and a maximum of 3. It'll still be 3 members. And the other members will be chosen, nominated by any board director and voted on. And there will be a total of 6 members. And this way, we also will have the opportunity to allow people to be on the committee who have maybe served on the committee in the past, have been board members or board directors in the past, have served on the bylaws committee in the past, and as well allow newer shareholders to get involved
who are interested in being involved in this type of committee. It's a hardworking committee. Well, sometimes it doesn't work, actually. They don't always have to work and submit proposed changes. And so that's basically how it will work. It will either be directed by the board to work on proposed amendments, or it can choose to make recommendations on its own and submit them to the board for board approval.
And will the president name the chairperson? I'm asking that question because I know
That's
the
a
answer,
good
but I think
question.
everybody wants to hear it.
We tried to keep to the tradition of allowing the committee, we are keeping to the tradition of the committee picking its own chair and also making its own times for meetings. So no, once the committee is formed, the committee will work, will choose their chair, will vote for their chair.
Now, before I go for the vote, I just want to explain what's going to happen. If we vote this up, Yvonne will be speaking to the elections committee. They'll work out a schedule and what we have to do and provide to all the shareholders. That'll all be done. It'll have a date certain for the actual meeting, which will be the count of the ballot, first the quorum count, and then the count of the ballots. This change in the bylaws, if I am correct, only requires a majority vote of those voting.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
All right. So that's where we are. Now, is there any other discussion?
I just like a clarification of what would be, when are we gonna have the vote? What is that? How does that work?
We're going to have it as quickly as possible, but it certainly can't be before the meeting date. And there's a time to get, we need time for the,
It's a minimum of 10 days and a maximum of 45 days from the time of the
From the time
last
we pass
meeting
it?
takes. No, it's from the time the meetings take place.
all
The
right,
last
so
meeting
from,
takes place.
in other words, October 3rd is the last meeting, up to 45 days from then can be the vote. I'm sure that Allison, the chairperson of the elections committee, is going to get on top of this and move this. I don't think we're going to have it on the last possible day of the time schedule. Okay? Any other question? Any other speakers? Questions? Thoughts? All right, seeing none, I call the question. All in favor? It's unanimous call. Okay, I want to thank the members of the committee, Yvonne, Martin Cozzolo, John Carter, Doug Simmons, John Buscarello, Jeanette Rodriguez-Morick, and Maitri Singh. Thank you for a job well done in a very speedy manner. I appreciate it, and I think the community will appreciate it. Okay. So, bylaws is out of the way. We are now up to the main event. The event we have all waited for, money. Mr. Treasurer.
Well, I think we've had a number of meetings. We did have an August meeting. We've seen a number of reports, but really what matters is the audit that we saw yesterday. We had a special meeting of the Finance Committee last night, and we got this, the audit from Mindy Eisenberg Stark, her company, and Mindy did not make it, but Anthony Daru was there, and as of last night, our projected deficit was for the end of the year, 12-month deficit was going to be $200,000. Well, today, after looking at the numbers again, it's under 100,000.
It's going to be 100. It's approximate.
We're calling it 100. And so I just want to say this reflects still a huge problem with the fuel costs, which we did find, management found, I don't know who found, some double bills from Hess, and so they're cleared up $140,000 in things we should have never been charged for. And so ultimately, compared to our budget, for the 6 month, as of June 30th, we have a $843,000 variance on fuel costs. So nearly $300,000 in fuel that we didn't think we were going to spend. That's fuel and electricity. Because, just call it all fuel and heating, and electricity.
Wait, I'm sorry, that figure, that $292,000 92, that's for what period of time?
That's just for the first 6 months.
292.
292, for this, call it 293. So, compare that to our variance for our total operating expenses as of January 38th, which is $68,592. That's a difference of $224,251, which I think management, CSR, Russell deserves credit for cutting our operating expenses by over $200,000 in the first 6 months. Such
And he's
that-
not finished cutting.
Such a 292 variance in fuel becomes $68,000 operating expense variance. So so last night, again, we were looking at 200,000. So we're projecting, we take the 6 months, we just double it. Everyone agreed that that was the way to do this. And so last night it was 200,000, and we agreed on this motion that I'll be presenting. But now, with the numbers cut in half, I have taken the liberty, Larry and I have taken the liberty of taking the numbers that came out of the motion last night and cutting them in half.
Which the spirit is there.
So, motion number one, and this was recommended by the committee, so no one could. So there's no second involved, which is new. The board adopts the financial, okay, so now back up to just the report where these.
1 second,
decisions were
one
made.
second. I gave it out, but maybe I'll sit on the table. I'm sorry, gentlemen. I have another one.
I have one.
Yeah, here we go. I think do you have one? Okay, good. Do you have one?
We're gonna start with the boring stuff and build up to the
climax?
finale. So number one, the board move that the board adopts the financial statements and supplementary information as of June 30th, 2012 with corrections. So we're accepting this report. Although, well, you can make
So,
up.
Andy, there's no second required. It's from the committee, and so now we are here, and it's before everything. Chief, you want to speak first?
Yeah, I
Good.
just thought, I looked, because we got this revised version today, at the table just now, I looked at quickly, the second version. You
Yeah.
have it?
We didn't get this, all right, gentlemen? I thought I put it on the table, but, okay,
We
good.
only went halfway around.
No, I put some on this side. They have, there are 3 copies
Yeah, they
here.
have.
Did you give one to Sabrina?
Yeah, so
Okay, never mind, I'll give one to Sabrina.
We had one yesterday.
Okay.
And then they made the revised one.
This is the newest edition. When you look at the back page, okay?
Yes.
It won't be a draft once we approve it. If you look at the back page, you know it's the newest one, because it's 37,462 at the bottom. That's the newest one. Everything that was missing yesterday is in here today.
Right. And then, I just looked at it, I found 2 places, maybe, one I'm sure needs to be changed.
Page change.
Page 8, that's a small one, the first paragraph, just after June 30th, there is an extra comma. So take that out. And then page 7, yeah, because this one is a bigger one. Page 7, it says reserve fund. If you look at 2012, it goes into $9.9 million, something, right? But it didn't say, they should have a sentence down below saying that Wells Fargo has our
In escrow,
escrow.
yes.
That's on page 1, if you want to know the exact number.
Where are you looking now, sorry?
Page 1 assets, the third line, 5.6.
That's right. That's the money they're holding.
Yeah.
And that should be over here on this page as well.
7, whatever they want to do
It should be as a note, I think.
Yeah.
So, if we could have them revise, in other words, Russell, on this page 7, you see it, right? Okay. So, we're gonna do that. It'll be
Right.
done.
Yeah, so that means we have like
It is-
14.9 million something.
Yeah, you're absolutely
15
right.
million. It's not just.
Right, the reserve fund is bigger, but
Right.
Wells Fargo owns part of the reserve
Right,
fund, so,
yes.
okay.
But that's.
It's like not having the money anyway, right?
Yeah, but the good thing is Wells Fargo give us a little interest.
.025
It's
or
so.
.011. They can't figure out how small to make it, you know that.
Better than nothing.
Yes,
So,
well, that's
okay,
true, I
just
agree
this-
with you.
Yeah, just these two places I found.
That's it? Good. So, any other discussion about this document? Because we're gonna correct it, it'll be dealt with in the second motion, but the point is we should accept it with corrections, which it
Yes.
says, with corrections.
We're gonna include what she just said.
Those become corrections, they will be the corrections, because that's the newest corrections, and we can vote on it if you choose. Does anyone want to discuss this anymore? Good. All in favor of accepting the report? Unanimous?
Yes.
We hot, we're on fire. Okay. Treasurer's still
So,
voting.
motion number 2, this is even more boring than the first one. And this comes from me, not the committee. I think every treasurer does this, my understanding, I'm not.
That's true.
The Board of Directors accepts, the Board of Directors accepts MHHC's financial statements and supplementary information as of June 30th, 2012, audited by Mindy Eisenberg Stark, CPA, CFE, MHHC's independent certified public accountant, as circulated to the members of the board, and directs the following. That's the new part, directs the following. 50 copies are to be printed. Number 2, the treasurer will prepare a summary of these financial statements for circulation to all cooperators and for the use of those who may wish to buy apartments. The summary shall note that a copy of the complete financial statements as of June 30th, 2012 will be available for review on site at the management office. And finally, a copy of the summary will be appended to the record copy of the minutes of the board meeting of September 18th, 2012.
Excellent. John? Okay. Now, when he said appended, that means we have to have one corrected copy to give to Donna, like within a couple of days.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
No, she doesn't need it in a couple of days, because the record copy of the minutes won't get approved till next week.
Oh, so we got more than a couple of days. I know about that. Okay. All right. So it's moved and seconded. Discussion? I can't believe there would be, because this is a traditional thing we do every year. So it's good? We're gonna go for a vote. All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay.
And finally, the interesting one, motion 3, and this was from the committee, so move that the board institutes a 3.03% surcharge on maintenance for the months of October, November, and December 2012 to enable the elimination of the expected $100,000 deficit owing to excessive fuel costs related to the use of temporary boilers.
Is there a second? Oh, no, you don't need a second. It's committee. I'm sorry, it's committee. No second necessary. Okay?
So I can talk to that, which is, we would be within a margin of error if we did not take care of this deficit, and we could roll it over to next year, and we could pay for it next year with operating expenses, with our maintenance next year. And the committee unanimously agreed with one abstention that the best way to treat this was to take care of the deficit this year, for this year's deficit. And by the way, a detail I forgot to mention. And I guess it was July, we saw this coming, this big deficit, the finance committee, and the idea at that point was, well, this is associated with the chimney, which is a capital project, so we should try to capitalize these expenses, figure out some calculation of what share of the fuel was due to the temporary boilers associated with the chimney project. And we even had a dollar amount that we were willing to pay Mindy Eisenberg Stark to do those calculations. And she said she refused to do it on the grounds that it would not conform with generally accepted accounting practices because she could not estimate numbers. She can only calculate things. And so we're not allowed to use estimations. So therefore, we cannot capitalize this cost. We have to cover it out of operating.
Any other discussion? Yes, Steve.
So you expected 100,000 deficit, but aren't we? Does that kind of comport with our half year?
Yes, I can answer that. Last night, because I had a discussion with Anthony, Anthony said, what you do is you look at the half year, you double it, because that's the minimum. To round it out, to be sure that we're in the margin of error, we rounded it out to 100. And the committee, for the whole year, we figured the deficit would be 100.
There's some contingency in there, basically.
Yeah, and, it's, thank the heavens, I'll talk about this in a minute, but, let's vote if we can. Anything else? Gee.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear clear. Last night, when we talked about it, the deficit for the first half year is higher. And then now today we have a better numbers now. It's like 37,000 something. So it's much better. So I had concerns last night, so I abstained. So today I will vote for this because the number is better, even though I don't like the.
Because you like the number better? Now you're gonna vote for it? Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
We appreciate that the number.
Because, that's a better way to balance the budget at the end of the year, and then we'll talk about next year.
Well, we'll be talking about it very soon. We're almost into
Yeah.
budget time now. I mean, the treasurer's gonna be putting out his notice to all the committees. The CSR is gearing up for this, and, we're gonna have the meetings. We're gonna get going, because by the end of the year, we have to have a number for January 1. Okay, may I call the question? May I take the vote? Yes? Okay? All in favor of accepting the report of the motion to the surcharge? Unanimous. Okay, done. I want to say, this has been the most exciting ride I have ever been on in my entire life. We took up with, I became the president, and within 30 days, I'm looking at $500,000 deficit. My hair is turning gray and grayer and grayer, and I think I may have lost a few of them, which I'm not too happy about. And Russell kept saying to me, but we're not doing badly. We're gonna be okay. Look at this, and every finance committee meeting, go, see the savings here, the savings here, the savings here, and he did make all those savings. And if it had not been for his savings, we would have a huge deficit. So I'm grateful to Russell for doing an outstanding job. I'm grateful for Anthony moving the damn administrative costs out of this thing last night and having a better number today. And we all understand that this deficit is caused by one thing, and one thing alone. It's the chimney. Had there been no chimney, we could have actually looked at maybe a 1 to 2% surplus, which would have been amazing to me. I don't know anybody else, but to me it would have been unbelievable. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Andy for sitting there and pushing Russell and telling me, calm down, and Russell telling me, calm down, and actually it worked out because I calmed down and it worked out. This morning I woke up, Russell said, guess what? We're down to 100,000. I said, really? That's amazing. Can I go to sleep tonight again? But 100,000. Okay, time for my report. So, 2 very simple items. First, no apartment will be released for sale by a real estate agent until the expiration of 120 days, which is what is in our bylaws. There's no reason for that to happen. There never was a vote taken by the board. I've researched it thoroughly. So I've directed, there's nothing there. I've directed the 120 days to be only apartment for resale. The second thing, parking. Parking is now a priority of public safety. They now have a plan in place to inspect every single spot in a 24-hour period to see if the car parked there belongs to the leaseholder. And everyone should understand that anyone who owns a car signed a contract with this corporation saying they will not sublet the car, the spot. Russell has been directed, and I didn't direct him. We had a discussion. Russell's going to put out a letter to all parkers explaining what they signed, that it is a contract, and if they violate the contract, they are losing their spot. It's a legal document. There's no second chance. People have been taking advantage of this corporation for a long time. They're making money on this spot, and they should not be making money on their spots. It's the corporations to lease, and it's the corporations to collect money. So those are the 2 things in the president's report. But we don't think it's 50%, but we think there's maybe 20% of these spots are being abused. And I know of several people have sublet their spots. So, but we're not going to, this will be taken care of once we get the information. And all of this information public safety is collecting, You'll be knocking somebody's door one day and say, could you tell me why? Can you tell me what car you want? Because that car isn't in your spot. And we know that because for the past week, we've been checking that spot. And when you can't answer properly, you'll be out of the spot. We'll lease the spot to somebody else. There are many people in this co-op that want spots. Okay? So that's where we are. We have just finished closed session, open session. The board will now go into closed session at 9:21.
10 minutes.
10-minute break, absolutely, because you know why? I finished early. You can have